Good morning, everyone. Hello. Good morning in Germany. Hello in the rest of the world. Good afternoon in Japan. Thank you all for coming. I want to start our event at Berlin Science Week. I'm Jonas Fischer from Tohoku University, and today our event is called The Future of Digital Health. So we will have 4 speakers. Professor Nagatomi is joining us online, and then 3 speakers will speak here. And in the end, we will have a panel discussion with all 4 speakers, and we are hoping that we will also take questions from the audience, but depending on time, there might only be a few questions that are possible. So here you can see the schedule. Our 4 speakers are Professor Nagatomi from Tohoku University, then Gianpaolo Pileggi will speak about how AI can improve our health in the future. We will have a talk by Professor Waga and then a talk by Professor Toon, and in the end, as I mentioned, the podium discussion. So now for the opening by Tohoku University Vice President Motoko Kotani.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank you very much for joining our event today, both in the audience in Berlin as well as those joining us online from around the world. My name is Motoko Kotani. I am Executive Vice President of Tohoku University and the Director of the Tohoku Forum for Creativity. As in previous years, we are hosting an event at Berlin Science Week. While I cannot be there myself today, we are happy that Tohoku University can be present again in Berlin this year and meet our friends and partners in person. Last year, our event focused on lessons learned from disaster, such as the 2011 Great Japan earthquake and tsunami. This year, we want to address another very important topic, the future of digital health. With aging society in both Japan and Germany, several pressing problems are emerging. Today, we hope to hear about some possible solutions and encourage discussion, not just between Tohoku University and our guests from the Berlin Institute of Health and NEC Laboratories Europe. The 2 speakers from Japan are members of our Center of Innovation, which aim to create a society with self-help and mutual assistance through unobtrusive sensing and health monitoring. The talks of our 2 guests from Germany will focus on the use of data for personalized medicine and AI in relation to human health and well-being. The panel discussion with all 4 speakers will follow the presentation, thus bringing together the European and Japanese expertise. In summary, we will hear about the discussion of the future perspective of how digital technology can improve our lives. I'm very much looking forward to today's presentation and panel discussion.
Yes, so this was the opening by our Tohoku University Vice President Motoko Kotani. Now we will proceed to the first talk. It will be an online talk by Professor Nagatomi. He is the Dean of the Graduate School of Biomedical Engineering at Tohoku University. He is also Vice President of the Japanese Society of Physical Fitness and Sports Medicine, a Fellow of the European College of Sports Science, ECSS, and also the past President of the International Society of Exercise and Immunology. He's a board member of Exercise is Medicine Japan. He has been making significant contributions to health and sports science using a multidisciplinary approach covering molecular and cellular biology, immunology, cardiovascular physiology, biomechanics, epidemiology, sensor technology. He's co-research leader of Tohoku University Center of Innovation and Center of Innovation project for the creation of a society with self and mutual assistance through daily unobtrusive sensing and health monitoring, and a co-creation project of academia and industries. So he will join us online via Zoom. I hope he is already there. We had a little bit of connection problems before. But could you put up the Zoom screen, please?
I guess I'm, well, I think I'm there. Don't you see me?
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
So please start whenever you're ready.
All right. Okay, so I'll first try to share the screen. Okay, now may I start? So before starting, I'd just like to briefly mention about the aim of the symposium. And so we have a great amount of abundance of great technologies which may be able to support our health. But are we happy with the current situation? And definitely not. So we would like to share, with the audiences what we are up to by now, and of course, the discussion may be focused on what we could do in the future to uh, to be able to get all the benefits from the digital technologies. So I would like to present my slides in a quarter of an hour. So the title is "Who Would You Listen to, Mom or AI?" But considering the gender equality, I may be able to put it as parents or AI. Okay, because parents is an important word for my presentation. It's a metaphor of trust, I believe. So to start with, we've already introduced us. Professor Kotani has already introduced us, but we've been here in Berlin last year as well. I myself, I miss Berlin very much, and especially the Currywurst, the Berliner Currywurst. But so we are from Tohoku University, Sendai, Japan. And we have abundance of green in the city, and as well as a nice cuisine, Japanese cuisine. But unfortunately, as Professor Kotani mentioned, 10 years ago, we had suffered from the great earthquake. So we are we of course, we have been able to recover with all the power of the people here in Japan, as well as with the great support from all over the world. So this is our team, a Center of Innovation project. This presentation, including Professor Waga, he is the research leader in the center, and I am standing next. So we have been involved in the a big national project called Center of Innovation Initiative, funded by the Japan Science and Technology Agency. So the aim of so I just briefly would go through the aim of the project, and it's been stated here. So by identifying our health issues in everyday life through unobtrusive sensor text and make it possible to tell us what to do for a healthy future. So with a lot of the abundance of data technologies with sensors, we are capable of identifying many problems in our daily life. But of course, identifying is not enough, and we need to take actions in order to head for the better future. And I would like to mention that, okay, so to changing your behavior to a better way sounds okay, but it's not always easy. So parents might have told you, listen, stop your smartphone and go to bed, or you're not going to tomorrow. So this is kind of an empirical conversation between the parents and kids. But this is, so what the parents wanted to tell the kid is to have a better sleep. So nowadays, we already know insufficient sleep leads to various and many deleterious consequences, including mental diseases. So, but empirically we know. So, but from the experience, we know, and many people have known that good sleep is good for your health. But now a lot of evidence is supporting or are supporting the experience. So especially the behavioral aspect is very important. So for example, so we already know about this, but like consequence of bad habit. So this is an example in Japan, but the trend, the profile are very similar to many countries in the world. So for example, like smoking accounts for many deaths in Japan, as well as physical inactivity. Well, blood pressure, you cannot like, change very easily just simply through your behavior. But like, of course, like it's indirectly related. But physical inactivity, you can just move in order to overcome physical inactivity. Okay, dietary salt intake. If you can just take care not to take too much salt, then you can recover from this. And alcohol use and high body mass index. Of course, like this is not this should be overcome by various direction of efforts. But anyway, these behavioral aspects, the bad habit, accounts for many deaths, not only in Japan but all over the world. Oh, of course, like here, low intake of fruits and vegetables are also one of them. Okay, so I would like to mention, okay, how did we get to know these habits are bad? And this is because like we have the experience. So how are bad habits identified? Because these are from the efforts of investigators all over the world, and most of the knowledge comes from the studies called cohort studies. I will briefly mention about the cohort studies. And cohort studies are a cohort study is a longitudinal observation of a large group of people. So a large group of people stands for a cohort who have been examined for health status and potential risk factors and being tracked for many years. So when you start a cohort study, you target a population, and basically they are healthy. And of course, like, for example, like smoking, we already know like smoking is bad, but like in the days when like smoking was not clearly identified as a bad habit, some researchers could have come up with the questions. Okay, I saw many patients with lung cancer who smoked. So this kind of hypothesis leads to stratifying the population into groups. For example, like so you can identify there are several people or a proportion of people smokes a lot, and some people only smoke moderately, and some people do not. And so you track them, you follow them for many years. Oops. And then you identify who got the diseases, like this. And of course, like, in case of smoking, it was identified as like heavy smokers will develop the rate of like the incidence of diseases would be very high. So we call it the hazard ratio or odds ratio. And here you see that, of course, like, those with high dose of smoking will have higher incidence of diseases. So the risk will be very high. So this is the way we identify the habits, and all the bad habits that I mentioned in the previous slide were all from the cohort studies. So longitudinal tracking is very important. So, and the outcomes of these cohort studies led to establish many guidelines for health. So public health guidelines, I wrote at the PhD. But recently, or last year, WHO has revised the guidelines for physical activity and sedentary behavior. So I'm from sports science and exercise science, so I'm very much familiar to this. And you see in this book, you can refer to the WHO website, and you can see how much exercise is recommended, including like strength training. So, but the question is, okay, so we have a lot of guidelines. Also in Europe, like sarcopenia is also a big issue in Europe as well as in Japan. But okay, so we know what the problem is, but do people listen to PhDs? I will just briefly mention about our Japanese experience. In Japan, we have annual health checkups for most of the population, and the health checks for especially for workers target cardiovascular disease, and especially for men. So annual checkup. So I'll just briefly mention about the annual checkup for screening out individuals with multiple CVD risk factors, this system was implemented in Japan since 2008. So the risk factor for cardiovascular diseases, this is very well known: obesity, high blood pressure, high blood glucose level, high lipid level. So individuals with 3 or more risk factors will receive personal guidance based on the health guidelines to improve their behavior, especially on diet and physical activity. So the end of last year, there was a big study involving more than 74,000 Japanese workers, and they've been tracked for 5 years. And look at the effect of the personal guidance. So like public health nurses or doctors were in charge of like personal guidance, and because they have the guidelines, so it was not very difficult to guide them. So in the first year, okay, if you look at the reduction in the body weight, a mild reduction in the first year, second year, but at the 4th year, there is no, after 4 years, no improvement was maintained. And for LDL cholesterol, the initial improvement was better, but in the end, there were no effect. So the effect, unfortunately, on public health guidance seems to be questionable. I understand that the system is very nice, but the problem is how we guide them. So unfortunately, there was no improvement in blood pressure, blood glucose, blood level. So, and collectively, no cardiovascular risk factor mitigation was achieved. And okay, and now I would like to mention that parents' behavior matters to the future of children. So this is these are the statements derived from a big British birth cohort study involving almost 10,000 people. As a result, favorable levels of offspring risk factors for CVD. So there could be some genetic trait, but it's very likely that the behavior leading to obesity of the parents have also affected to the kids. But there's a good news. Intergenerational transmission of adiposity, so this means obesity, at the population level is modifiable rather than immutable. So, and most likely because of the parental guide to the children. So there is a good suggestion. So, well, kids who are not obese are most likely to have listened to their parents. So this is our situation in public health, mostly on the public health aspect, but many of the guidance are now being to be personalized. So, and if you think about the contribution of digital health, the new technologies or emerging technologies. So innovation in sensor text and information transfer are enabling us to faster issue identification. So cohort studies required a lot of effort using questionnaires and paper documents and a huge effort. But now, with the use of digital technologies, we can have a better access to the data. So what's going on in the Nordic countries, in Finland, Estonia, Sweden, they have the digitalized collection of data from most of the population. So, but in order to have this to benefit us, it needs to be unobtrusive, reasonable cost, and of course, the larger data handling capability, thanks to the fast internet connections, fifth or sixth generation communication. Now we can handle the data, and of course, the wave of analysis is also advancing. And we have faster and higher robustness in data analysis. So of course, not to speak of the big contribution of artificial intelligence expected. So I'll just briefly show our results. This has been published quite recently. And this is a very small study, but a cohort of 30 workers reporting the low back pain levels 3 times per day for 3 months at their real office. But we also monitored how we giggle on the chair how people giggle on the chair when they are working. So data acquisition from smart chairs installed with load sensors. We had load sensors, and then the data obtained looks like this. And from the signal processing analysis, we could identify a common pattern of micro movement that seems to be protecting the worsening of LBP in everyday setting. So in the end, we managed to predict when you're sitting on the chair in the morning for 20, 30 minutes, identifying the pattern. If you have the pattern, your low back pain won't be worsened. But if the signal, the pattern is absent, well, you're most likely to develop low back pain worsening in the afternoon. So it's a kind of a everyday forecasting technology. So this could be done by identifying, using the advanced technologies. But this is, but if you would like to connect this to your better health, I also need to say that only technologies, the technology is not only enough. Identifying the issue is not enough, but you also need an action. So, but do you believe or do you have trust on AIs? So trust is still like artificial intelligence are looking like a black box, and the trust therefore needs to be established. So we need parents equivalent trust. People listen kids listen to parents, but maybe not to the AI. So, and also parents also need to understand better how knowledge was established. So I mentioned about cohort studies, but these population-based studies are not only for studies, but could also benefit us. So finally, to wrap up, I have a take-home messages for you. So personal data matters. So for research, we anonymize the individual data, but for future personal health benefit, we need individual identifiable data. So my suggestion is that investing your personal data for your own future health benefit as you pay your personal insurance fees. Of course, upon firm security of privacy and unobtrusiveness, but this is all we also need to elaborate this, because there are also many threats about it. So data will benefit not only you, but also everyone who invested. So we can help each other by providing our own data. So sensors and AI may be a wise tool, but why don't we listen to parents and AI? So the answer to my initial title, for our future health.
Yes. Thank you very much, Professor Nagatomi.
Okay, thank you very much.
We are already a little bit behind time, so
Pardon me. Yeah.
I won't take much time to introduce our next speaker. It will be Gianpaolo Pileggi. He is a research scientist at NEC Laboratories Europe. Since May 2018, he obtained his PhD in 2018, working on AI models for the generation of synthetic computed tomographies from magnetic resonance images. His current main field of study consists of developing AI-based algorithms for patient stratification using genomics data. So please, Dr. Pileggi, take the stage. We are very much looking forward to your talk.
Thank you. So, hi everyone, my name is Gianpaolo Pileggi. I'm here to present this brief talk, starting with the question, how is AI improving our health in the future? So first, a few words about me, who I am. I am a biomedical engineer. I obtained my PhD in 2018, and soon after, I started as a research scientist at the NEC Laboratories Europe in Heidelberg. And as also Jonas was saying, what I focus on is biomarker discovery and patient stratification using omics data, single-cell sequencing mostly. And I'm also a bit interested into project management. But let's come to our initial question. When we talk about AI and we talk about digital health, especially, the key word is big data. Today, we have an immense amount of information available for each patient. So we may have, for example, EHR coming from the hospital, medical imaging that are acquired, or data coming from the wearables, from the smartphones, public records. So a set of comprehensive and at the same time complementary modalities, which are different but contribute to the overall picture of the patient. And so, given that we have this diverse amount of data, we have also diverse set of algorithms that can be used to perform prediction on this data. So to use the data to train some models, and then use this model to forecast in the future what could happen. For example, we have convolutional neural networks for computer vision tasks, so to look at images and understand, for example, if the patient is sick or not, or detect some tumor or some other problem. Then we have also natural language processing for textual information extraction, for example, for taking some textual data and extract important knowledge from that. And lastly, another example is graph convolutional network, when we use these structures called knowledge graphs, in which there are nodes connected each other, and each node has different information, and maybe, for example, the relation between a gene and a drug, and many other possible applications. This is just like a picture explaining that starting from 2010, there has been an exponential increase of the study and research study conducted in AI in medicine. But after this brief introduction, we saw there is a lot of potential, but also I want to underline that there are big challenges. With big data, with many data, comes also many problems. First of all, we have huge amount of data. It seems a positive thing, but it also may cause some problem because all this huge data may be sparse. We may have tons of missing information in the data, and also this are incomplete, and most important, they're most of the time unlabeled. And when we talk about data in AI, we need labeled data, because when the algorithm is trained, learns how to predict things, it needs the ground truth, so the labeled data. Another problem is that most of the times, all the data sets are in silos and are separated each other. So most of the time, they cannot communicate. So we cannot take this big data from different centers and make them communicate. Given this problem, what do we desire from a future AI algorithm? First of all, we want that we can obtain a seamless integration of the different modalities into a single holistic representation, to take the various modalities and then merge them, for example, in a graph-based AI model, when each node in the knowledge graph represents a modalities or a different aspect of the patient. Then the second point is something a bit obvious, but we want accurate and personalized predictions out of this holistic model, because this is the essential part. We want that for a specific patient, the algorithm is able to perform a dedicated prediction. And a direct consequence of this is that when we have a prediction, we have a model, we want also to understand why we have these results. And this is an important branch of research, which is called explainable AI. I will talk a bit about that later. The last 2 points are also important because, as I said before, most of the times the data are sparse. And what we want from that is that the algorithm is able to somehow reconstruct the missing information. The last point is mostly about scalability. That is, when the amount of data increases, the AI algorithm needs to be able to keep the track with this improved amount of data, and so also to not lose its efficiency. After this brief introduction, I just wanted to show some of the projects we are currently working at the NEC Labs. And I decided to rank them a bit based on what I say, a complexity. And we start from the easiest one in a way, but it also takes a lot of work. In this initial project we did some years ago, we used EHR data to perform disease prediction on patients. We took the EHR of the patients, and the data were coming from intensive care units. And this data contained time series, numerical values, texts of different modalities. What we did, we created a knowledge graph, so this entity in which each patient is a node and they are connected each other based on some sort of similarity. And after that, we use our AI model, our AI engine is called Graph AI, to merge this data together, to extract an holistic knowledge and perform specific prediction. In this case, we evaluated the mortality in hospital or the length of stay or the discharge destination after a certain number of days. So different application, which can be binary classification, regression, or multi-class classification. Going a bit forward in complexity, we have another example, another use case of stratifying the response of the drug to patients in clinical trial. That is, today, the most important weight on the budget of the clinical trials is the patient recruitment, because there is a manual search for the most suited patient, but most of the times, these patients don't respond to the therapy and then drop out of the trial. This means that ultimately the trial risks to fail, and many fail actually, failed because of that. So how can AI contribute to that? We can some sort of predicting in silico the patient we will actually respond to the treatment and then select this patient for the trial. How we did this? We did a similar approach, but we combine in this case 2 important elements. First of all, we combine domain knowledge, so a network of gene interactions. And on the other side, we took the genomics data of patients before any treatment. Thanks to AI again, we combined these 2 information, and we extracted specific modules of functional models of genes that led us to predict the patient that will ultimately respond or not to a specific drug, given only pre-treatment data. And this was a joint collaboration with the German Tumor Research Center, the Deutsche Krebsforschungszentrum. Another application, and here the complexity starts to become really impressive, is can we create personalized cancer vaccines? This is a very interesting question because actually in each tumoral cell of a patient, there are specific peptides, we call them neoantigens, that could potentially elicit an immune response from the own system. And so if we're able to select these peptides, we can create personalized vaccines. However, when we manufacture a vaccine, we don't have space for all the peptides, and we have to select the most important ones. And in this case, it is AI that can help us at ranking the most important peptides and give us the ingredients for the perfect vaccine for the patient. This is a bit of complex workflow, but I will describe in a few words. What is needed here, we take genomics data from the patient, and thanks to this AI module, the neoantigen prediction system, we are able to take all these neoantigens and rank them and select the most suited to be used for the vaccine. This is already in a clinical trial phase, and we're close to phase 2, so this is a very important achievement for our company, and we're very proud of that. And the last point here is about the future. I think that the future here is what's called the digital twin. The digital twin is a step forward, and in a few words, is basically obtaining a digital copy of a patient. So what if we can obtain a copy of the patient or the population? The idea is to merge AI models, so prediction model, with other modules, which is, for example, mechanistic models or optimization models and other additional, let's say, modules that are added to the digital twin. An example is given by other companies who work on the digital twin of the heart. Then they model the 3D reconstruction of the patient heart, and they also added some mechanistic model to describe, for example, the fluid dynamics of the blood there, and they added additional model. In this case, they can simulate what happens in the patient's heart before touching it. And in general, this is the aim of the digital twin, is what can we do in order to, let's say, simulate what happens to the patient without touching him. We apply this concept for the creation of personalized cancer vaccines. And as I said before, we took this DNA and RNA data, this omics data as input. But in this case, we don't just predict something using AI, but we combine the prediction of specific elements together with some mechanistic model, for example, how the antigen is presented to the MHC and the T cells. And the optimization module, which is something else, is how we select the peptides that kills most of the tumoral cell. So here we are doing a very impactful simulation on the body of the patient without touching him. And this is why we can select how we can obtain the, let's say, best ingredients for the vaccine. After this series of applications that I described, I also wanted to, let's say, give some question to think about that. So my provoking question is, are there shadows? Maybe, but I wanted to underline some points. First of all, how are the data used? And how the data should be used? Luckily, we have GDPR here that strictly regulates the controlling and processing of the data. And in this case, we can avoid the abuse of personal and sensitive information when we use personal sensitive data for research. However, the question is, can it slow down the research? Because there are a lot of bureaucracy and questions that are asked. So it's a bit of it's a gamble or as I said before, a provocation, but I think it's important that something regulates how data are processed. The second one is a question regarding the doctor. So what needs to be the doctor of the future? Does he simply need to be a doctor? Does he need to have also knowledge in AI, like extensive knowledge in AI? And also, who is responsible, for example, when there is an error in the diagnosis or treatment? Is the doctor or is the AI model? So what role does the AI model need to have? Just decision-making or a decision support tool? That's another open question, which I think doesn't have an answer yet. And the final point here is, as I said before, can we trust the black box model? Can we trust what the model says? Can we trust the results? This is an entire sector of research, which is called Explainable AI. And this focuses on explaining exactly the meaning behind prediction. And I think that the most important thing that is needed from Explainable AI is a user-friendly interface. And when I say user, I mean the end user. It may be, for example, the doctor, or if it's some specific app, the patient himself, the person. And we need this user-friendly interface for effective explanations. Last slide is my answer to the question. Is the AI going to improve our health? For me, it's yes. It's definitely yes. And we have a long road ahead. I just want to conclude with our mission at Biomedical AI at NLE, which is advancing medicine through the power of AI. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pileggi, for the very nice talk. Our next speaker will be Dr. Iwao Waga from Tohoku University and NEC Solutions Innovators Limited. He is CTO of Phones Life, Senior Fellow of NEC Solution Innovator, Visiting Professor at Tohoku University School of Medicine, project leader of Tohoku University's Center of Innovation project, and R&D supervisor at the Japan Science and Technology Agency. He has been engaged in research and business development of NEC's healthcare, biotechnology, and artificial intelligence projects. After a successful IPO and business development at a US startup. With his research at North Carolina University and the University of Tokyo School of Medicine, he made contributions to DNA design, omics, big data analysis, plant biology, molecular biology, and biochemistry. He won the Design Award and teaches at the Department of Design, Tokyo University of Arts. Please, Dr. Waga, we are looking forward to your talk.
Thank you very much for your introduction, and I really appreciate to visit here. This is a great honor for me to talk. So I would like to show about human data, how to use this, and we call hakaru, wakaru, okuru. Hakaru is a sensing, wakaru is a AI or recognize and thinking. Okuru is a sending or gifting some present to some important person. So may I talk to start? I have 3 topics. One is a lifestyle, and the second one is a sensors, then social implementation. So we had a very unusual summer we spent because our Olympic is first Olympic postponed 1 year. And we create a very beautiful stadium, but the seat is completely empty. So Japanese people just watching TV to the Olympic game. So we need more resilience to against the next, today's pandemic and the next pandemic. Maybe a scientist has a big potential to contribute that world. So basic disease is a problem now. So COVID killed only basic disease people, high blood pressure, diabetes, something. So if you are completely healthy, influenza virus or the other pandemic virus couldn't make any target attack to the healthy people. So why basal disease happen? That's only reason is lifestyle. Many big data already proven about the salt. Salty taste is very attractive, but this is a major reason to get high blood pressure. And artificial blue light is also very bad for human brain and blood pressure, or sometimes carcinogenesis. So now smartphone is globally like a pandemic. So everybody has a smartphone, but that light has some impact to the human nature. And the chairs, maybe 200 years ago, we don't have many chairs per person. Now, every person has more than 10 chairs in office, house, 3 or 4, and sometimes empty stadium still waiting for you. But chairs is also the risk factor for creating a blood pressure, high blood pressures or other kind of the heart disease, because it's big data shows sitting is the same as smoking. That's a very bad thing. So we need to stand up, then talk a lot, and walking a lot. Another thing is refined carbohydrates. That's the problem for originally people comes from the ancient age to today. They use a very complex low natural whole plant food, but now many kind of the food industry create a very nice, very sweet, very nice flavors. But those sugars also create some kind of basal disease. Yesterday I take a curry sausage with beer. That's the major reason to visit here. That's very attractive. I love that. But processed food create something unusual situation for the microbiomes. And big data also shows this is also the reason to create a basal disease. Loneliness in Japan in these days, so many people living alone because elderly people living alone and also young people living alone. So loneliness is a very big basal disease creators. If somebody think about loneliness or I'm sad in case they have the increase of the mortality risk and also hypertension risk and sometimes dementia risk. So we need to communicate each other not to prohibit the loneliness. This is one example about the Japanese people. They are the longest life expectancy now, but they have some disease problem, basal disease problem. And two kinds of Japanese people are there, boys and girls. Boys has many problems about that because their single life expectancy is very short. If this is a wedding ceremony, they think about a future, bright future, but if wife is dead, in case boys cannot survive only 2 years, that's the Japanese normal. But if the wife is living alone and his husband dead, she can enjoy her single life more than 10 years. So single life experience is very different. And face recognition is also different. If he got a dementia, in case everything is forget, but only one thing he keep in the memory is wife's face. On the other hand, if she got dementia in case, first thing to escape the memory is her husband's face. So very different kind of the well-being is in Japan. But I think those are, everything is created by the lifestyles. So I want to talk about some sensors we create. We used the many sensors, more than 30 sensors for daily life monitoring. Hakaru is sensing or detecting or measuring of all the lifestyles. It's a pill sensor. Professor Nakamura created this, a very small sensor, but in the gastric acidic condition create a power, then moving the sensor, temperature sensor, then the data is outside of the body. This is a blood flow dynamic sensing. It's like a watch, but it's completely nice monitoring for the blood pressure. If high blood pressure happens, they can easily catch this. And this mirror device is created by the Yoshizawa sensei. Just watch the mirror, then mirror is recognize a beeping and how heart rate is faster, then maybe good for the mental condition or not. We can expect that. And SNPs are also created for the really highly sensitive for the Japanese populations. And the smart furniture, Nagatomi sensei already talked about something about the smart furniture. This is really cool thing. If somebody is sitting, then chair is thinking about his good healthy condition or weakness happened or not. How many things we can pick up. And DAF is another version of the chair sensor. It's a smart furniture, but like a super nice Zen people concentrate or in meditation. We can easily copy using this small chair. And this is a fantastic small sensors about natrium potassium meter. Urine shows who has lots of vegetable, who didn't have the vegetable, and who loves the salt. They are the very target person to find to control the high blood pressures. Sleep rhythm also thinking and examined a lot. So those sensors are now coming together and to use many kinds of AI and think about the future health. So daily casual sensing is, for example, DNA is only one time a year, but daily monitoring is every day we create new data, then checking. So many patents Tohoku people created. And this is a unique structure in the university. Now, Tohoku University very open to the industry people. So many kind of the company people visit to and create a new project. BUB is our style to study a business, university business. So other kind of the companies come together and thinking about the future. This is a very interesting study we already published. At a small city, 50 times smaller compared to the Berlin, the city, Tome, 9 part of the stations. All the stations people, blood pressure is down during 3 years. This is the first case of to completely control about the blood pressure reduction. And another company is started a Smart and Sleep City project. It's a very nice sunset cleansing the blue light effect. Then they can sleep a lot. Otherwise, if they use the smartphone in case everything is stopped, but they started this project. And asking people with Professor Yoshida started about human communication importance. They can succeed about the body fat percentage because, and housing living project is also succeed to reduce the blood lipid. And every day, those sensing is a very nice power to adjust people's health. And the university is now changing in Tohoku, a place to gather the multiple companies work, interact with each other. And another one big thing we have found, personal data is not only for healthcare, but for the commercialized way or marketing tools, because we have maybe hair shampoo, we have a long tail product, but some personal data indicate what is your most effective product. Those kind of approaches we can start now. So they are the, our members. Nagatomi Sensei is side of my right side. And CY Tohoku project just start about the hakaru, okuru, wakaru, this kind of the human lifestyle interaction. That's today's topic. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wager. Thank you very much for your nice talk. And now we go to the last speaker, and after that we will have the panel discussion. So the final speaker today is Professor Sylvia Toon. She is a licensed physician and graduate engineer and a professor at the Charité, the Universitätsmedizin Berlin, where she heads the core facility Digital Medicine and Interoperability at the Berlin Institute of Health. In 2014, she received the Digital Head Award from the BMBF and the German Informatics Society. In 2020, she obtained the additional designation Medical Informatics from the Nordrhein Medical Association. She is also certificate holder of the Medical Society GMDS for Medical Informatics. Sylvia Toon is chairwoman of the Spitzenverband IT Standards im Gesundheitswesen and chairwoman of HL7 Germany, deputy chairwoman of the DIN Technical Committee Medical Informatics, and delegate to ISO TC 215. Please, we are looking forward to your talk.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and I'm very pleased to be here and to help this presentation for you. And my question is, do we need fairer data? So the future of digital health is already here because we have a very nice architecture for our EHR, but it's not implemented yet in Germany. So we are looking forward to have this EHR, which is smartphone based. And for us, it is very important that the security and the GDPR issues are within this EHR architecture. So we have a federated ID management system, we have distributed services, as you can see here, and the interoperability issue is very important for us, and the security architecture. So our first use cases are the emergency data set, which we will try to share with other European countries and worldwide countries, and the e-prescription system, and we are now in this testing phase, and the medication plan. So beside that, we have a very nice approach from our Minister of Health, the so-called DIGA system. DIGAs are digital health applications for persons, not just patients, but persons who use these for prevention and so on. And the doctor himself is not included in this system, but we can take the data from the DIGA to the EHR in the future. So, and what I just said, so taking the data from one system to the other system is about interoperability, and as you can see here, it is very, it's a challenge for us all the time to have the same language and to have the same meaning of language. So we try to find solutions, especially for science. And I don't know if you know the BIH. BIH is a fairly new research organization at Charité with about 400 researchers, and we try to enhance the reproducibility of research and to have translational medicine from bench to bed, reusability of data. We want to share data, and this data is not only for machines, but also for software applications. So here is a nice publication from 2019, just before there was the pandemic. And within this paper, we really pointed out that there will be the next pandemic coming here to the world, and we didn't know it. So you can see that digital medicine depends on interoperability, not only for communication between the patient and the doctor, and to empower patients, but also for research. And you can only do and work with algorithms if you have good data. So if the data on the testing, the training data and data of the patient is not standardized and it's not fair, I will talk about this later, you cannot have good algorithms on top of the data. So, and we just had the World Health Summit here in Berlin, and it's all about international cooperation. And this is the reason that we are standing here today. So this is how data looks like in our hospital information system at Charité. This is a standard. It doesn't look like it, but it is. It's HL7, an observation between all these systems, like a ventilation system or syringe pump or some other systems. And we try to capture this data in our health data platform, not within our hospital information system, but on a higher level on a health data platform. And we try to give this data anonymized to scientific research institutes or to our scientists. So what can you do then afterwards? You can really use this data, for instance, here in this DICOM format. DICOM is a format for imaging, and then you can really see if this is a tumor or not. And this says your AI algorithms tells it to you, and our pathologists have a lot of spin-offs who are trying to work with this new methodology. Beside that, you can see the morphological and molecular structure of not only these pictures, but of radiology pictures as well. And this is much more precise than that what a pathologist or radiologist is seeing and doing. So they can find more than 99% of Malling cells, and they are 10 times better than a radiologist or pathologist, those algorithms. But this is just about grayscales, nothing else, and about big data that we're using for within these applications. So another application is our deep MS, multiple sclerosis project here at Charité. So you can predict how a disease or how the activity of a disease is within multiple sclerosis if you not only take the images, but you can you take images and other data like age or some scores or tests or something else, what you can see at the EDDS and so on. So everything together can give you more insights of a diagnosis. And who is responsible to have fair data? It's a huge initiative, the Joint Initiative Council. And you should imagine there on the top, on the roof, there's the WHO as well. And they work together with the Global Alliance for Genomics and Health. And I think you know this alliance very well because they make technical standards. So, and you can see some abbreviations here, and I'm the chair of HL7 Germany, and we tried to find a solution for Germany that all these standardization organizations, like this worldwide initiative, that they work together, because this is not a technique, these are people who have to talk, who want to talk with each other, and sometimes they don't talk with each other. So LOINC and SNOMED and so on, these are special terminologies for medicine. And these are within sensors as well. So if you have a sensor specification, an ISO specification, you find LOINC terms within this specification, and then you can read it as I showed you before. So, and the most important product of this Joint Initiative Council is the International Patient Summary, so that we have one summary or short summary that we can share between all countries of the world, the International Patient Summary. And I don't know about Japan, if they are using this or not, but you can map it to your local EHR if you want to. So talking about data again, talking about the FAIR principles, I think most of you know what it means, but I've brought it to you here again. So it should be findable. So you should have metadata, and some data that describes data, and it should be accessible. So you should be, there is a use and access committee here, Charity, for instance, so that other university can access the data from us if they are scientists. It should be interoperable, the same format, the same vocabularies, and it should be reusable for instance for the pandemic or for questions we'd ask at the Robert Koch Institute here. So my colleague is Christian Drosten. I think everybody knows him. And so we tried to find a solution here in Germany and in Europe to have one data set. And therefore we need this SNOMED language. This is very important that we have one language for all these things. And you would say that you all know the ICD-10 from the WHO and so on, and they are now working together. The ICD-10 has only 12,000 concepts, and SNOMED has about 500,000 concepts. So it's a very rich language. Beside that, we are using LOINC. This is from the Ringstriff Institute in America, and we are using LOINC not only for observations and within the sensor data standards, but for, as you can see on the right-hand side, for PROMs. PROMs are patient-related outcome measurements that the patient get when they leave the hospital. So we can still ask, how are you? So, and there are projects going on in Germany. I just want to show you two projects. One project is about the scientific data infrastructure here in Germany for health care, and there are nice institutions working on this infrastructure project. And the next project I just mentioned is the German Corona consensus data set. I like this picture because this shows that we use standards here for all researchers who did research on the pandemic. And we have always the same data items, like oxygen saturation or something, or the ECMO or something, and it's always the same. So they don't find new words for something which is the same. Besides that, we won this project H2020 from the EU, and now we take the data from these countries here that you can see here and harmonize it with the GECKO data set. So we can really work with a lot of data and harmonize the data. Yeah, and in Germany, we have 34 university hospitals, and there's a medical informatics initiative and an interoperability work group. And therefore, we, within this work group, we then specified these core data sets so that not only the EHR has a data set standardized, but also the scientists. So they all work together right now, and this is quite nice. So last slide, or last two slides. So what are we doing with the wearables and the sensors and everything what provides us with data? We try to integrate it into the EHR. And we try to integrate the EHR into our hospital information systems. So here we try to take the ECG from the Apple smartwatch and translated it to the standard, because as you know, right now it's a PDF and just some Excel data stuff. And so we translated it to the standard, and now we are able to query on the data, or to make queries on the data. And this within a very secure surrounding. These are just ISO standards that you know, like OpenID or OAuth. You are using these standards all the time when you work with your smartphone. Yeah, last slide. This is I think, the future Tophol. I think everybody knows Mr. Tophol here, and he tries to take us to his vision that we will have virtual health guidance in the future, and we provide this network, this neural network with data, and then we get guidance here. So yeah, conclusion is that we should provide or that we should have fair data in the very beginning, not in the end, but the software vendors should be forced to produce fair data and interoperable data. And then I think this sentence is very nice, then we can aid the democratization of medicine, making health technologies globally accessible, improving healthcare, fostering innovations to enable translational medicine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Toon, for the very interesting talk. Now we just need a short moment to reset the stage, and then we will have the panel discussion with all 4 speakers. So please stay tuned.
Yeah, please. Hi, meine Damen und Herren. Let's move on to the panel discussion. So we have only 15 minutes. So I will make one question to today's panelists. So I will pick out some questions received from the audience via Zoom chat. So if you would like to ask a specific speaker, please specify the speaker's name in your questions. Oh, sorry, I've forgotten my self-introduction. My name is Kenichi Inaho. I'm a research administrator of Tohoku University and in charge of organizing the COI project. Okay, so first of all, so today, 4 of you make a speech, so each topic related to your own expertise. So I would like to know, so how can we create a bright future with using these new healthcare technologies? So please answer in the order of presentation. The first, Dr. Nagatomi, please.
Well, I think, we all mentioned about the common, important aspect of our digital health. So it's the trust of the data. So the last, Professor Toon, you mentioned about fair, FAIR. This is very important to establish the trust for the data. And otherwise, we wouldn't, so no one would listen to you because we need to understand the data and then to do what you need. So my talk was more on prevention, and the latter, Gianpaolo and Professor Toon, you focused on more on the healthcare and hospitals, but they all are the same. And also we also need to have a cost effectiveness. So for prevention, you need to have a cheaper solution. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dr. Nagatomi. How about you, Dr. Pirage?
Yeah, actually, a lot was said in the talk, but if I can summarize everything in one point, I believe that the future is to have always more and more accurate models that are really able to produce specific prediction for the specific patient. I think this is important in order that each patient can really feel safe while having this prediction and, as the professor said, trust the model. This is the future, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Oh, how about Dr. Waga?
Yes, I think same as the Olympic game, empty seat, we should create an empty hospital because everybody has a healthy in case hospital has a more time to care, specific care for some serious people. So lifestyle is a key. Many things happened from the lifestyle. I recently, these 3 years, I learned a lot about the habit for myself. So hospital empty is the future. Everybody will be happy and well-being is created for on the earth, I believe. Thank you.
But how about the workers at the hospitals, hospital workers, so what will they do?
They can do their own work very carefully and slowly and heartwarming communication with the patients.
I see. Thank you.
Same salary.
Okay, how about you, Dr. Toon?
So what should we do with our huge charité building then? I don't know. Okay, I think we should have a new mindset. So the mindset that we trust scientists, we trust data, and we want to share data, and we should know how precious data is for the whole world, for global health. And not only sharing this data between me and my doctor, but to be not afraid anymore to share data. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to introduce the questions. So we received via Zoom chat. Okay. So first question is, how can women trust AI and databases based on male prototype? So first, I'd like to ask you this question.
Yeah, can you please repeat the last part? How can we try test it? Oh.
Yes, male prototype. So,
yes.
How can women trust AI and databases based on male prototype?
I don't know. I think you can't. I think that the model needs to take into account also the gender difference, but with a twist. Because if the gender becomes a discrimination for the prediction in a negative way, then we have to take care about that. But if there are specific features, specific elements that distinct that are different between male and female, they need to be taken into account. So it's not trivial to validate something like that, and I will avoid it personally.
And I have a question. So male prototype. But I think now gender is so not specific to male or to specific to female. I think probably we can generally analyze the both.
Yes, it depends also on how the model is able to generalize. In general, what AI does is trying to generalize. And I think this, the accuracy, but also how you can trust the model, it can be seen after a round of tests. When you also, let's say, perturbate the model and you do specific, for example, gender-related questions or perturbation, and then you see how it behaves. I think it's sort of a trial and error if you really want to have the models to be as general as possible.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any opinions? So the other three panelists. Okay, Dr. Nagatomi.
So this particular question was about men and women difference about the AI prototype, but but in particular for cardiovascular disease, being a man is a big risk factor for cardiovascular disease. So women are more protected. So the odds of the hazard ratio is more than 2. So, so the reason that many of the AI models for targeting cardiovascular diseases are targeted for men is one of the biggest reasons is this. So, of course, in the models, we need to have many variables, including the gender, biological gender. I mean, thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any opinions, Dr. Toon?
I don't know if you all know that the clinical trials, not only the algorithms, but the clinical trials are based on male data most of the time. So this is the problem, that we should change the trials and or not taking data from soldiers. So most of the algorithms are from America. In America, they use data from soldiers, and they are just 5% women. So this is the problem. And yeah, we should just talk about it and change it altogether.
Definitely.
Yep.
Great.
Oh, great. How about Dr. Waga?
Yeah, I think that today is only a starting point to start the AI world. So most important thing is not only for the gender, but the diversity. And any kind of the human diversity must be acceptable for the AI programs. And training and also use cases, we should carefully check about if some human race has a problem using those kind of the AI, it's a very bad thing. So we should fairly use. That's a hard question and big challenge, but we should do that.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's move to the next question. So how to economically implement this health management system? Oh, sorry, some big noise. So how to economically implement this health management system? So please answer.
I didn't understand the question.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I don't know, Dr. Fisher, write down the question, from the this note, but the original question, economically, yeah. I see. Sorry, I couldn't get the meaning of this question.
So
okay, yes, please.
Digital health right now is very expensive, that's right, because we have to implement new technologies, pay for it, do research on it, and we have this MDR here in Germany, or the regulations, so that that I showed to you, the DIGAs, the use case, the scenarios, and the software applications are not allowed to be within the market, and so you have to pay a lot of money as a vendor. And on the other side, the insurance companies have to pay a lot of money as well. So I think the solution will be that prevention will be much more important than to be ill. So perhaps in 20 or 40 years, we can calculate it, but not right now. Right now, it's very expensive.
Thank you. How about you, Dr. Waga?
Me? I think it's very difficult to reduce the healthcare costs, but so many business models are still growing and many ideas coming. So we need a more sustainable situation to use the any kind of the money to help each other and to create a healthy world. So I think government works a lot and the hospital works a lot. So more companies should think about new things, about maybe innovation. That's another approach we never checked about new potentials. So I really want to see about that. That's my opinion.
How about you, Dr. Bridge?
Yeah, I think most of that was covered. I just wanted to add that with all technologies, the more technology is widespread, the more the prices go down. So I hope that this also happens in the future in terms of both hardware or specific equipments. Like, for example, the genomic sequencing machines. Now the cost for the sequencing is really dropped down during the last year. So I also hope that there is a widespread of different technologies that allow to have more competitors and so lower the prices. And for the rest, yes, I really agree with what the other two colleagues said.
Okay, so based on the reverse order, the last Dr. Nagatomi, what do
Yeah,
you
so as I mentioned in my presentation, so our data, our personal like health data, is like equivalent of money. So so part of the insurance fee, maybe replaced with your data, which would help yourself as well as to help others. So we are now having like a dialogue with insurance companies, and they're seeking for new business models. Well, of course, like still like digital health is expensive, but I'm sure like we have the future.
Okay, thank you. So unfortunately, we have 3 more minutes today. So last, I would like to ask you a question. And so this event is a collaboration event, Germany and Japan. So what do you think? So how can we collaborate in this healthcare, digital healthcare field? So please answer from the in the order of presentation again from Dr. Nagatomi.
All right.
Please.
Yeah, well, I had been collaborating with one of the Horizon project, for data sharing, but like it was because of GDPR, it was impossible to transfer our data to EU or vice versa. So now we have to we need collaboration. We need to share the data. And how can we do this? Is my question. And I'm sure like all of you agree, to share the data, so to be productive.
Thank you. How about you, Dr. Pillage?
Well, I'm a member of NEC, so we are a Japanese company. But so,
Yeah, you're working at a Japanese company.
so we have had a lot of collaboration between Japan and Europe, luckily. This is a very nice situation. There are obviously some GDPR compliance problem, but it's possible, and it's also a great experience that I had until now, and I hope it can continue also in the future.
Thank you. How about you, Dr. Waga?
Yeah, I think Japanese people and German people looks like samely living, seriously, very honest, and take care of the many small works, and we trust completely. So I don't say any other country's issue, but those honest country could contribute right thing, data share or thinking about the future healthcare. So I'm great honored to be here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. How about you, Dr. Toon?
Yeah, we are already working together at a very high level, like at WHO level, with the WHO classification sector, and on ISO level as well. There are many friends who are from Japan, and we are meeting each other 3 times a year now online, and we try to find these solutions for the standards, because this is about talking with each other and understanding other healthcare systems. So if you don't understand the other system or the vendor view, you cannot create standards. So I think this is a great way to collaborate.
Okay, thank you very much. So unfortunately, we are out of time and must conclude this session. So if you have further questions, please email them to the address. So now currently displayed in the Zoom chat. So please use that email so that we can answer them at a later date. So I would like to conclude today's panel discussion. So thank you very much. Vielen Dank.
Thank you.
Dank, auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen, Dr. Nagatomi.